Awesome, awesome. So again, thank you for introducing me. I'm going to go through a little bit of introduction myself, um, but ultimately, this is just a beginner's guide to cryptocurrency. I did not ask who's on call, what your experience is with crypto, but this is a beginner's guide, as I have titled here. So if you are a little bit more advanced, please hold your questions to the end. I will have an area for questions. And also, if you're interested, there may be more slides that I could go over as well. But let's get started. So, who am I? We kind of went over that a little bit, but I'm going to go over a little bit more detail. I'm 34 years old. I think that's something that I should add that I'm neither young nor old. So if you're somebody who's just getting into this, don't feel like it's just for the kids. When I say kids, I mean anybody 18 or younger. It can be for us too. Um, Outside of the masters that Quintina talked about, I also hold a Bachelor of Arts, which, as I say here, is the best of both worlds to have an art degree and then also a science degree. I own my own business. So I know we talked a lot initially about my expertise in cybersecurity, software development, etc. I have a couple clients. One client is a federal client, and then I also have another client who's a law firm where I handle the majority of the IT, and then the federal client I handle a majority of the cybersecurity. Um, so I thought to add that as well. And also, I've been into cryptocurrencies since 2011. Um, and I feel like as we go into more detail, like when cryptocurrency started, you can see that I've kind of been in crypto almost since the beginnings, at least of Bitcoin, not of crypto itself, but at least of Bitcoin. um, and apologies with that there, it looks like some blue is in the way, but I kind of wanted to go over this, and you can ignore these little blue things here. It looks like they just got in the way there. But this is University of Maryland. This is the school that I graduated from. This is also where I first got introduced to cryptocurrency. Um, I was in an engineering class. I believe it was either physics three or probably one of my Diffie Q classes. That's differential equations, and one of the kids was talking about Bitcoin and actually buying some. And back then, the only way that you could get Bitcoin was not through like an exchange like Coinbase. It was really through like true peer to peer. Like you would meet somebody, and then have your Bitcoin on like a thumb drive, and then you would like give them cash for it. I did not get Bitcoin around this time. This was back in 2011 while I was still in college. But that was the first time I heard about it. And I did tell my father to invest in it, but he did not. And I think back in 2011, on an investment standpoint, I think Bitcoin was around like $10 maybe. And I think it reached the peak to like 100 or so around that time. But um, yeah, I tried to get him in early, but he wouldn't do it, and I was just a poor college student, so there's no way I was going to spend my little bit of money on something that wasn't proven yet. This is the engineering school. Again, that's why, like I said, I first heard it through engineering school. Told my dad, right? And this is why you're seeing the blue and the arrow, and hopefully it doesn't show through the whole slide here. But this is actually when exchanges first came about. One of the first exchanges was Mt. Gox. And I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Mt. Gox, but it was an exchange that maybe lasted a year or two um, on the market. And it was one of the first exchanges where you could actually buy crypto. with your fiat, essentially your normal US dollar. And I have a red arrow pointing here where I basically first created my account, and you can see it was back in 2013. So it's just amazes me that Bitcoin is still around and that it still has the power that it has. I mean, we know that governments have invested into Bitcoin, like El Salvador. Our own government is thinking about creating a strategic reserve. So it's very interesting that it's still around and still kicking ever since I started my first exchange account back in 2013. So, what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a decentralized network. It is pretty much very, very similar to like how the internet once was. The internet was a truly decentralized network. Now there's a lot of centralization, a lot of I would say, nodes that are controlled by centralized entities, such as like Amazon. Amazon holds a lot of the nodes for the internet. So does Google, and then you also have these sort of blocked off, not quite subnets, but internets that you could more or less call them intranets, where like Russia and China sort of block off their intranets from the true internet. So it's not as decentralized as it once was, but Bitcoin is truly decentralized. Um, and it's a peer-to-peer network. So what that means is that there isn't really a need for a centralized entity for you to interact with Bitcoin. If, for example, I own a couple of Bitcoin and I want to send you one Bitcoin, I can do that without the use of the exchange that I showed before. I can just ask you for your Bitcoin public address. You give me that, and then we talk about how much you need in Bitcoin. I can send you that without any sort of intermediary. And it sort of shows that they're in the Investopedia definition of P2P as well. And some other information about Bitcoin is Bitcoin was started in 20, why am I saying 20? 2009. Such a long time ago. We don't say 2020s anymore. Back then, just 2009 was when Bitcoin started. And um, it was actually right after the global housing crisis of 2008. And when a lot of the governments were bailing out banks, and Satoshi Nakamoto wanted to basically come up with a better idea for a global currency. And there were other global currencies that were created before Bitcoin, some such as like e-gold, I believe is what it was called, or maybe it's called BitGold. Um, there were all sorts of electronic cash that was created back in the early 90s that didn't go over well, or it had flaws in the security where you were able to double spend, or in layman terms, basically create extra money out of thin air without any way to prove that it was part of the network prior. So Satoshi figured out a way to basically solve those issues of double spending and create a way to also decentralize it, so there's no centralized entity managing this new electronic cash that he called and coined Bitcoin. And all of that happened and was released back in 2009. So, how Bitcoin works: Bitcoin operates on blockchain technology. The transactions are verified by a network of computers, nodes, and it also involves mining, where miners validate transactions and secure the network. Um, And I'm going to go over a little bit on the transactions and miners later, if you all want me to. I do have extra slides to go over that. And I also have a fun fact here because I'm pretty sure a lot of people have heard that crypto mining takes up a lot of energy and it is supposedly wasteful. But through a quick search online, um, Bitcoin energy consumption is around 113, I believe that's terawatts annually. And then traditional finance consumes double that. And I just thought that that was very, very interesting. Mainly, mainly because the financial industry is so like the traditional financial industry is so against Bitcoin, but then they use double the energy. And I just thought that this would be a fun fact to add. So if anybody comes at you and says, "Well, you're supporting something that isn't green," I would say to them that this is probably more green than their dollar, which is kind of funny to say. Um, Moving on here, why is Bitcoin valuable? And really, it's very simple, and it deals with just basic supply and demand, right? The scarcity of Bitcoin. There will only be 21 million Bitcoins that will ever exist. Now you can split those Bitcoin up to basically 8 zeros, I believe. So about a million times or so of what's known as a Satoshi, the smallest form of a Bitcoin. So you have one Bitcoin, but then you also have one Satoshi. And I believe it's 1 million Satoshis equals one Bitcoin, but only 21 million bitcoins will ever exist, and then no more will be created after that. So when you have, again, like I think I talked about it before, but governments interested, you also have institutions, major institutions creating ETFs that are interested in it. You have the big bad BlackRock that's also interested in Bitcoin. All of these entities um, are buying up Bitcoin and or mining it. So very similar to gold that I have pictured here. There's only going to be a finite amount. But unlike gold, let's say if we do some sort of space exploration and we find gold somewhere out in space somewhere, um, then that will obviously increase the supply of gold. And if the demand doesn't increase, then the price of gold will decrease, right? It won't go up. But with Bitcoin, because it's mathematically coded in to only have 21 million Bitcoins, and so far, this mathematical proof of this has not been hacked yet. Knock on wood, with quantum computing on the rise, uh, its supply will always stay the same. And as demand rises, that's why you're seeing the price of Bitcoin rise so much from literally nothing to now, over $100,000. Another reason is decentralization. Um, as I'm not quite sure of everyone's knowledge of history, but countries do, rise up in power and then they fall in power as well. Over and over again, we've seen this in history. And if the country and government essentially have power over the fiat that they're creating, then you're also tying the value to that government, right? Or to that country. So if that country fails to exist 5 years, 10 years in the future, or if they fail to show advancement in technology, advancement in people, advancement in all aspects of human progress, then you'll see also that their monetary system will start to crumble as well. Some examples of this are Venezuela, where they're dollar is basically worth nothing. You can see other examples with some African countries. Just another fun fact: my mother was Liberian. I say was because she's not here anymore. But my mother is Liberian, and the liberty there has continued to fall because one, they print a lot. So when you're printing a lot, again, that brings up the supply of the dollar or their liberty. Two, there hasn't been much advancement there in the country, so that also will, because that liberty is tied to the country and to the government, brings that liberty down. So there's those sort of factors, and this being decentralized eliminates that. There's no single entity that controls it. Security is another thing. I know I touched on that before with the scarcity on how like it hasn't been hacked since 2009. Now, if you were to look it up, you could fact check me, and you'll see that there has been bugs on the Bitcoin network, but those bugs have been fixed, and or there were hard forks associated with any sort of issues where the and I don't want to go too technical with the forking, but there were fixes to whatever the issues were for Bitcoin. But so far, there haven't been any hacks, right? And then the final reason on why it's so valuable is the utility, right? And I have it here where it enables fast, borderless, permissionless transactions. We touched on it with the peer to peer before. It's permissionless, so I don't have to go to a central location and ask permission to send these funds. I can send as much as I want to whomever I want. um, it's borderless. I can send these sort of funds over to China. I can send them to Africa with no issue. I don't need to use Western Union or anything like that. I can just send them crypto, and if they want to trade in that crypto for US dollar or whatever their currency is, they can do that, and it's fast, right? So that's why Bitcoin is valuable. That's why cryptocurrencies in general are also very valuable, because it enables that sort of very quick utility and transfer of value. So, smart contracts. I want to kind of just glaze over this, mainly because like it can get technical. So hopefully, like just high level for smart contract won't scare too many people away from this. But smart contracts are basically contracts with the terms written into code. So we'll go over some smart contract examples, but I'm pretty sure you all have heard of um, maybe a token like I'm trying to think of a token that you've heard of, maybe like Shiba Inu, right? Shiba Inu is just a contract within the Ethereum network that says I want to produce X amount of Shiba Inu coins, and then that be a token on this layer one known as Ethereum. So literally, Shiba Inu and any other token that you find are just smart contracts. Um, Enable automated and trustless transactions. So what this means is that you can run a smart contract and not have to touch it after you've pressed your execute button for it. For example, there's something, if you look it up, it's called flash loans. I won't touch on it here. Maybe in another session, if I'm graced another session, we can talk on more specifics. But a flash loan, you can basically um, do some arbitrage within the market. But when you create a flash loan is essentially a smart contract that can arbitrage off of the liquidity pool and earn you crypto, right? But instead of you manually doing the arbitrage, which definition of arbitrage is basically you find the value of a certain token on one exchange or DEX or AMM, and then you see it at a higher price somewhere else, you could buy it low and then sell it at the higher price, right? Um, so you can do these sort of contracts, arbitraging, flash loans, and things like that um, through smart contracts, and then never have to touch that contract again as long as your contract is written um, well enough to handle any sort of changes in the market. And then also, you can create applications. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard of DeFi, decentralized finance. A lot of those DeFi, like I said, AMM, that's automated market makers. Those are essentially like your pancake swaps, your Uniswaps somewhat as well. Those DEXs, all of those are essentially just smart contracts um, on their associated networks where you're able to trade tokens, crypto, and you can do many more things as well with smart contracts, not just DeFi. I have some other examples there: supply chain, real estate, etc. Um, and then going into this, I already touched onto the tokens. I didn't touch on to coins. So one big fact that I'd like to mention here that a lot of people get confused about is the difference between tokens and coins. Coins, usually when people are talking about coins, they're talking about things that have their own blockchain. And what that means is that they are a layer one. I know you heard me probably mention layer one earlier in this presentation. Layer one blockchains are your Ethereums, they're your Bitcoins, they are your Litecoin, even your Doge is essentially a layer one. Now, that would be considered a coin. Tokens are built on existing blockchains, like, for example, the Shiba Inu that I had brought up earlier. That is built on top of Ethereum, right? And then I have an example there. You see ERC20. That's basically the standard for tokens on the Ethereum network. So ERC20 would be your Shiba Inu, your Pepe token, um, there's so many different tokens out there. So just be wary of the tokens, in my honest opinion, because with that being said, anyone can build a token. You can literally go on YouTube, watch a 5 minute video, figure out how to make a token on Ethereum or on any other Ethereum like network and build one. And then there you go. You have your own token on the blockchain. Um, and another thing on here that I guess I haven't really touched on is the difference between um, Bitcoin versus your altcoins. So, how the community explains altcoins, and altcoin can even actually refer to tokens as well, is literally anything that isn't Bitcoin. As crazy as that sounds, because Bitcoin was maybe not the first cryptocurrency, as I explained earlier. There was some made in the 90s before, but it was the first successful one. The industry as a whole considers anything that isn't Bitcoin an altcoin. So your SHIB is going to be altcoin. Your Ethereum is going to be altcoin, but your Bitcoin is just your Bitcoin. I added this because I thought it was funny, and then also like I know that a lot of people have have their questions about Ripple, XRP. I put up their old logo there. I know they have a newer one now, and I also put Doge there as well. Sort of just giving you more examples of altcoins, right? But then also like to just jog your mind on it for questions for later. Just in case you have a question about an altcoin, maybe I can answer. I can't answer everything because, like I said, there's tons of altcoins, so I'm not going to know everything about every single altcoin in the market, but I am willing to answer your questions, and that's what this slide is really for. NFTs, this goes along with the whole smart contract talk that we had earlier. Um, NFT is a smart contract as well, except for NFT is something that can represent something that is unique. That's what the non fungible means. So it can be unique digital assets representing, music or art, as you've probably seen with like Bored Ape Yacht Club. I don't have any images of that up, or any other sort of art that you've probably seen on OpenSea. Um, Also, it's built on the blockchain for that sort of immutability and then also verifiability. So the blockchain, because of how it's structured and how blockchain works, it allows for you to have that protection, right? That immutability. So something that's interesting to me would be, as an example, if the blockchain is immutable, which it is, you could possibly make a NFT of your deed to your home, right? That would be something, a good use case for an NFT outside of art that we've already seen before, where you know that you own your property, it's on the blockchain, it's immutable, nobody can change it, right? And then it's also something that you can verify because you have this NFT, you hold it, and if you transfer it out to somebody, you can digitally sign that, hey, I've sent my deed out to X person after they bought my home, right? That's just an example. I don't know, I haven't seen that example before in the blockchain space, so feel free to use it and turn it into your own business. That's fine with me. Um, but that's how NFTs essentially work, right? Also, it shows real estate as being a use case there, um, at the end. Then there's also gaming assets, etc. Moving forward, big talking point, and I wish I had more on this, but I made these slides weeks ago before the whole DeepSeek news that is currently going on, and how DeepSeek is basically taking over the whole market, at least the tech market. Um, and AI and blockchain kind of work together. Um, there are a lot of AI agents that utilize blockchain markets to basically help users make money and or help users, you know, or basically guide them through the blockchain or cryptocurrency ecosystem. One of these AI agents is called, um, I think it's AI XBT, and that's the logo that you see on the left here. It's something that's found on the Virtuals protocol, which is on the Base network. We touched on networks before. Base, I would say Base is a layer one network, but I think Base is a layer two, um, meaning that it would still have to communicate to a upper layer one, like an Ethereum later on. Um, Again, can touch into those more technical details either later for questions or another time. But AI and blockchain are really working hand in hand now. There's also a story of an AI agent that created um, its own ecosystem and its own crypto, and I think it was called Goat Coin. You could look that up, and it made tons of money. But then the crazy thing about it is you have this AI agent making this money. Where does the money go to? Did whoever make it program the agent itself to then give the programmer the money made from creating this whole goat ecosystem. I don't know, right? I didn't delve too deep into that, but it's very, very interesting how AI and blockchain sort of coexist right now. Um, and another example is just how AI is becoming more and more, I don't know if I want to say it like this, but sentient, maybe not fully sentient, right, in the way that I'm talking to you right now, but it enough so that there's AI like that go where they're creating currency, they're using currency, right? We talked about just the automation through smart contracts. Just imagine if you had an AI agent that could basically create those smart contracts, automate, and then spend those same tokens to upgrade itself, right? Or maybe upgrade you in whatever you wanted, right? Monetarily. So it's very interesting. There's so many avenues to take with AI and blockchain. It was just something that I had to add a slide. I couldn't not add a slide of AI and blockchain, especially as it's rapidly changing um, currently in the market, tech market as a whole. Um, Challenges and risk. Um, so there's a lot of challenges and risk in cryptocurrency currently. The obvious one is the volatility. When you have such a free market and you have something that truly isn't controlled and something that is 24/7 like crypto in regards to the monetary side. So now we're moving away from smart contracts and AI, and we're just going to talk about just it being able to be traded. It's going to fluctuate all the time. The 24-hour market is absolutely insane, and it shows in its price, right? However, I also want to add, and this is more or less an opinion of mine, but as bigger institutions get into the space, the volatility will start to slow down or at least simmer down. And you can sort of see that already with Bitcoin because Bitcoin is heavily bought by some of these bigger institutions. They're not going to sell on a 10% loss, right? They are likely going to hold for that 100, 200% gain on their investment because they're big money, right? They aren't like the typical buyer like you and I who may wake up one morning and see their investment down 10% and then panic sell. Um, there's hedge funds into this. There's huge mining farms mining hundreds of Bitcoin a day. They're not going to just sell, right? So I think volatility isn't as crazy as it once was, but it's still there, especially when you look at some of the altcoins, things that aren't Bitcoin. So some of the tokens, you'll see that volatility because a lot of the big players aren't investing in those. You might see a high net worth, high identifiable individual create a token. That token skyrocket, and then a couple days later, the token's down because again, those institutions are likely not investing in those. And again, that's just something that I've seen, and it's just an opinion of mine. Another challenge is regulation, right? Governments are still defining rules for cryptocurrency. As somebody who has worked for the Bank of New York Mellon under the Digital Asset Compliance and Regulation Department, I can tell you that us still using the Howey test for crypto doesn't make any sense at all. But that's what we're using, and there have been some new bulletins like the SAB 121 one bulletin that was introduced for banks, and some things that the government has tried to do to define rules for cryptocurrency, but it's not there. And also, I'm talking just for the United States, because crypto is a global phenomenon. Then you also have to make sure that it's not just regulation that works for the US, but also for anywhere else in the world, right? So it hasn't been defined yet. It's still, I would say, wild wild west. And then you could turn on the news and sort of see that, right? Um, Security. Um, I know I touched on Bitcoin not being hacked, but your private keys can be stolen from you. If you're one like myself who doesn't like to hold their coin on exchanges, and I like to hold my coin on hardware wallets, um, using cold storage, then I have to make sure that my private keys are safe. I can't ever risk sending my private key over Gmail or Outlook or whatever I use for email, because then if you have my private keys, then you have my coins, right? And then the other thing is phishing, right? Um, if you currently have gotten a Coinbase account or Crypto.com account, you might have come across phishing attempts on your email where it looks like it's coming from Coinbase, it looks like it's coming from Crypto.com or Kraken or whatever exchange you use, but it's not. And if you don't look at that email with a keen eye, then you might accidentally click on a link that will then basically exfiltrate or your data, right? Or your keys or your passwords, or worse, you could click on a link, it take you to a page that looks just like your exchange, and then you just willingly give the information over your not only your email, which they already have to log you in, but then you just willingly give over your password as well, and then you're left with nothing. That's another reason why I don't keep a lot of my crypto on exchanges, because of that risk as well. So there is that security risk. Um, I put environmental impact here. I know I touched on the fun fact before about how it's not as much energy as the traditional financial industry, but it's still a lot of energy. That amount is more than some countries use, right? So, um, we as people who are really interested in cryptocurrency, blockchain, and the future of it need to look at the environmental impact as well and try to find ways to mine or maybe not mine in different ways to prove a transaction um, without using all of this energy, because there's going to come to a point where the amount of energy is just, it doesn't make sense to keep the network running, right? So that high energy consumption for mining is a big thing. All right, so I'm gonna pause here for a little bit. The bonus is really just gonna go into mining. Is everybody okay with me going into like mining and how a little bit more information, not too deep, on how transactions work, etc.? Is that okay? Just gauging the group here.
Sure, go for it.
Go for it. Okay, I know we have a lot of time left as well. Um, so, what is proof of work, right? Uh, Talked about environment last there, and that proof of work is really what the mining is, right? And this is what's taking up all of the power. Proof of work is a method used to secure the network and validate transactions. So, um, what you do to for proof of work is you have miners solve mathematical puzzles to confirm those transactions. So, I'm going to pause here and not just read. I'm going to try to give you a visual without the visual here the best I can, and I kind of delve into it in the next slide. But I kind of want to just stop here and kind of explain this. When you broadcast your transaction, right? Let's say I'm Bob and you're Alice, and I send you um, 9 of my 10 Bitcoin, right? That transaction goes into a ledger. That's why. That's why with blockchain they call it a ledger, essentially, right, or a digital ledger. It goes into a ledger, and if you know ledgers, you know that it's just a history of transactions, right? So then with that 9 Bitcoin sent to you, Alice, Alice sends it to Carol. Alice sends 8 of that Bitcoin over to Carol, right? That transaction also gets put into the ledger. Now, the ledger cannot be infinite without some sort of proof in between, right? And with some sort of way to reward whoever the prover is. So that's where the block comes in. So there's a certain amount of memory that that is in one block, and I believe Bitcoin is 2 MB. I don't think it's changed since then, of transaction details that can go into a block before that block gets filled, right? So then, say you have a block filled of transactions and you need to send another transaction, right? But this block is now filled. What happens is you have a hash of this block, which essentially is just your a cryptographic algorithm that changes um, that value of that block to some pseudo random array of numbers and letters. It's called a hash, and from there, then there's also a nonce that's included. I won't go into too much detail of the nonce as well, but then you have this hash, you have this nonce, and then what the miners have to do, that's that complex mathematical puzzle that they have to solve. They need to figure out, okay, I need to guess basically um, a part of this hash. There's no way that I believe even all these miners can solve the full hash, but they have to solve essentially a part of that. And then when that miner solves that, then that block gets added to the previous block, right, from before. And then now you have a chain, right? You have the block of transactions before, then you have this block of transactions that's been proven, right, through this mathematical puzzle, and then it's been now added to the other block, that block being a list of ledgers. Then you just repeat that process again. You have a whole bunch of transactions. We all send to our friends back and forth. The block gets filled, but then we need to prove the transactions of that block after the hash, right? And then once that's done, it gets added to the block or the chain of blocks. That's why it's called blockchain. Um, which is probably like for some people who are hearing this for the first time, they're like, wow, like that kind of makes sense. Some of the technical stuff I'm ignoring, but the whole, okay, we have a ledger. The ledger essentially is within the block. Once the block gets filled, it gets added to the chain of other blocks, right? And then we can go. What's really cool with blockchain as well is you can go all the way back to the first block that was ever proven and see those transactions. That's why we're able to know how much Bitcoin Satoshi has in his wallet because of that ledger and that history. That ledger and that history is also your immutability that we talked about with the NFTs, right? If you're able to go all the way back and see transactions from 2010 um, that haven't been changed, then that's a very very powerful aspect of blockchain. That's why it's very very hard for somebody to say, I didn't purchase that, when you can look on the blockchain and see exactly when you purchased it, what date, and for how much. Um, so I just wanted to pause there and kind of try to explain that a little bit. before moving on because it is a very important part of proof of work and then blockchain as a whole. Um, that process continuing on requires computational power and energy, making attacks costly, right? So the reason why it makes attacks costly is that with each miner that joins the network, the difficulty of that mathematical puzzle actually increases. So there's a level of difficulty that also is included in this mathematical problem, which means that essentially the more miners and more hash rate that you have on a network, the difficulty will automatically adjust based off of the protocols to make it tough to actually solve the problem. That's why back in 2011 when I was interested in crypto, um, you could mine Bitcoin with GPUs, but now it's infeasible to do so. And I wouldn't recommend you mine Bitcoin directly with your GPUs. And as somebody who's a miner myself, I have to buy purposely built computers known as ASICs, application specific integrated circuits. That's what an ASIC stands for, to mine my Bitcoin. And those devices are extremely expensive. Um, I think if you're looking for one, even on the cheap side, it would run you maybe like a thousand USD, right? So it's making attacks very costly, and in order to attack the network, you have to have 51% of the hashing power, and right now that is way too expensive for even a lot of the biggest governments to want to hack it and to want to crack it. And then also, with that being said, if you do happen to attack the network and take 51% of control of the network through, money and buying up all of these ASICs and mining hardware, then you basically um, make Bitcoin and the network not valuable anymore. Because after wasting all of that money to hack the network to prove a point, then you're left with nothing. Nobody would want to invest in um, a decentralized currency that has now been basically hacked because somebody wanted to prove a point. And there's actually a couple of examples of this where a network has been hacked because they took 51% control and then it just tanked the coin. Like, it just doesn't make sense, right? So that's, I guess, a benefit of having these attacks become costly and the cost of mining. Um, I had to update this, but the first miner to solve a puzzle gets the Bitcoin reward. That's something that I was talking about with the block and then solving, you get a reward. Currently, it's 3.215 Bitcoin. Fun fact: when Bitcoin first was created back in January 29, or sorry, 2009, it was 50 Bitcoin a block, and you could mine, a whole bunch of Bitcoin with just a couple of GPUs very very easily. And it just amazes me again that the way that the halving works, that it's at 3.125 Bitcoin per block, and it's so small now. And also, this ties into the supply versus demand as well. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard of the halving. Halving happens every 4 years. So after the introduction of Bitcoin, then after the 4 years passed, then you had the first halving, and then it went down to 25 Bitcoin per block. Then after that, it went to 12.5, right? And then the halving before the one that we had previously in 2024, it was at 6.25, right? And then now it's at 3.125, which again is crazy to say, but at the same time, because it's harder to get that Bitcoin, The hash rate is going up, meaning the difficulty is going up, computational power, more computational power is needed. Also, the halving, making the amount of Bitcoin that is produced less. All of this means that the supply is given like basically a supply shock every 4 years. And that's another reason why the price goes up so dramatically. Um, and I will get off this slide, move over here. So we have this. I kind of touched on this before, but it's just good to run through it again, just to drill it into everybody's heads here. But new transactions are gathered into a block. Miners compete to solve that mathematical puzzle, right? The first to solve it adds that block to the chain, like I mentioned before. And other miners verify and confirm the block. And then the winning miner earns the Bitcoin reward that we were talking about. There's other proof of work crypto out there. It's not just Bitcoin. Litecoin does this. Ethereum used to do this. They're on proof of stake now, um, which is its own proofing proof essentially. But it's not just Bitcoin that does proof of work. There's a lot of other L1s that do proof of work. Dogecoin as well. I know we talked about that. Um, and why does it matter? The security of it, it prevents fraud, it prevents double spending. Again, it goes back to um, that cost to basically hack the network is outlandish. It's decentralized. So with proof of work, essentially every single miner owns a part of that ledger. So it's really hard for, and every miner is basically broadcasting off of that very same shared ledger, right? So it's very very hard to to not only hack it but then also try to control it, because you have so many different nodes in this network, and then also it's trustless. So there's no need for a middleman. All of this is happening between nodes. And questions as I'm running up on an hour. I did not think I was going to need an hour, but questions for me.
Yes, quick question. I don't know
Yes.
if you're familiar with Pi coin.
Picoin. Is that the crypto where you have to have like a phone application and then
Correct.
you get, yeah,
The
so
Stanford students ones.
so yeah, I have my opinions on it. Yes. So I would consider Picoin very similar to like a BitConnect. Have you heard of BitConnect before?
In passing, but I
In
couldn't really.
passing. Okay,
I don't know much
so
about
so BitConnect was essentially, um, I'm just going to call a spade a spade. It was essentially a Ponzi where you would create a BitConnect account. You would so-called mine um, BCC through their arbitrage trading system, and they would give you BCC. But really, how you got the BitConnect coin, BCC is what they called it back in the past, was you would have to introduce others to that currency or through their BitConnect arbitrage app, and then have them basically come up underneath of you like a pyramid scheme, basically. And then you would be rewarded based off of what whoever joined put in, right? And a lot of people didn't catch on because they just didn't. A lot of people are very interested in sort of quick money, and also, how can I say this, like a way to introduce people to something and then like build off of it, very similar to like an Amway or something. So like it was very under the radar for a long long time, and then somebody dug really deep into the inner workings. They found out that there wasn't any arbitrage robot. They found out that essentially it was the money from individuals that you brought on that was actually funding your account, and it wasn't again this robot, and then they deemed it pyramid scheme. There was a lot of law cases that were against it, and I bring this up because I've seen Pi and I get the same feeling from Pi. Um, I never got into it because for me, um, especially as a true Bitcoin miner and participant of the network, I want to know that I am truly providing for a network versus me giving some referral code to somebody and then getting a bonus off of the referral code. That to me just screams Ponzi to me. But again, this is just my own opinion. Uh, People have made great money using BitConnect. BitConnect is no longer around. Very similarly, I'm pretty sure you can probably make good money with Pi. It's just, do you want to be the last one holding the Pi bag, so to speak? So that's just my only comment on it. What are your takes on Pi and what you've heard?
Yeah, I'd been following it for quite a few years, about I believe 7 years, and
Okay.
it seemed, in my head, there's no such thing as a free lunch, right?
Mm,
Somebody's trying to tell you, oh well, you're gonna make this and make that. I'm usually skeptical. Now I'm an optimist, but I would say I'm a skeptical optimist.
yeah.
I'm not gonna plan the next 5 years of my life based on what's gonna come out of this, because there's a big chance nothing is gonna come out of it. Now, one thing that's also kept me going over the years, as far as just keep tapping their interface once a day, every 24 hours, is it cost me $0.00 the last 7 years. And you are correct. It does have that kind of Amway feel to it, which is why I was skeptical from the start. It's the only thing it's costing me is as much space in my phone as it needs. That's about it. Nothing else.
Yeah.
So I've always just looked at it as best case scenario. It hits mainnet like they always do, and I creep on it. Every now and then online on
Mm-hmm.
Google, seeing what all the geniuses are saying. But if nothing ever came out of it, great. I wasted 2 seconds per day for the last 7 years.
True.
But if something comes out of it, hey, look at that. Check it out. Even if it's 2 cents. Now, the reason I bring it up is since about October, there's been, the wave's been a little bit higher. Over the years, it's like some people know about it, some people blow you off. Even if I'm just trying to gain some knowledge from someone that claims to
Mm-hmm.
know stuff, and everyone
Mm-hmm.
claims to know everything.
Yeah.
But it's never asked me for money. The only thing it's asked me for was to verify my identity, which everyone does that. Crypto.com,
Yeah.
Robinhood, you name it. So
Yeah.
again, it didn't strike me as any red flag. But then on the other hand, again, no such thing as a free lunch. You are right. It does have you see if you want to put people under your network and your connection. But then again, what they mine and what you mine are not interconnected in any kind of way. Because if they don't do whatever they have to do on their end, you just lose whatever rate, your mining rate, that came as a result of that person, but you still get whatever it is you've been mining for however long. So the question I have here is, for the last week, it's been saying go to mainnet for KYC and all of that fun jazz. So essentially verifying you when that quotation mark dollar amount starts, when each pie starts being worth something, whatever that something is. I don't know. I got slightly excited within the last month, though, since towards the end of December, because now there's projections. There is they're using it in Brazil for real estate, but strictly real estate. There's all these different things coming up from different gurus. Again, everyone claims to know everything,
Mm-hmm.
but I was able to prove that to be true. But I didn't go to Brazil to check it out, but the internet is a wonderful place. Do you think that 45, $46 that they're claiming it is going to be worth when it hits mainnet in what, a week or two, according to what the app is telling me? Do you think there's some kind of truth to that? And you hit something in the head earlier, because you said, do you want to be the last one holding the bag? No, there's no
Mm-hmm.
way. because a year of this thing catching some waves, I'm dumping it. Even if it costs 2 cents, if I get 2 cents per, that's 2 cents per I didn't have before, and I got over 5,000 of them now.
Mhm.
So I'm just kind of wondering where, considering all the information we have, both the stuff I know and the stuff you're aware of, where do you see a chance of any kind of positive coming out of this?
So, based off of the information that you gave me, yeah, I can see positive, sure. If you haven't put any of your own money into it and you've literally only put your time, I guess 2 seconds or so a day, clicking onto the app or whatever, um, and then the only upside is they actually have a token that you can sell for another crypto or for your fiat, um, then that's great. My my concern again with Pi, and I think you touched on it yourself. You've been in it for years, you say, and still there there isn't any sort of way for you to trade this token that you're getting for free, which is great, versus the BitConnect example. But you can't exchange that for Bitcoin. You can't exchange it for any currency that I know of yet. And you're still waiting on that ability to exchange it, because once that exchange rate is established, then it has true value. Whatever they are saying the value is now, I would say isn't a true value of the product or of the asset, because what are they basing that value off of, right? If they say it's worth $46, okay, well then how? Is there an exchange where somebody has actually created the exchange from Pi to $46? I haven't seen that, and if you know somebody could prove that, then great. That's even better for you, because then you could go to that very same exchange and then sell your 5,000 Pi for 46 a piece. Um, so that's just my only concern with it. I do have to agree with you. It does seem like it has great upside, but for a project that's been around for years and still not on an exchange, that would be worrisome for me. Um, and that's just my own opinion on it again.
Correct. Correct. Seems like we have kind of a similar, I don't want to call it ideology, train of thought as far as this concerned, because I was more on the, skeptical side, not about maybe a year or two ago. But then again, my losses were minimal. But
Hmm.
then I went on Coinbase, and there it goes. I'm actually able to see it on Coinbase now. It's not currently tradable. It's not supported by Coinbase just yet. But you mentioned Dogecoin, Shiba earlier. They didn't always all start off being tradable on all of these platforms.
Right.
At some point in time, you had to do things the flash drive method, just like you mentioned earlier.
Hmm.
And for some of these coins, before they start hitting some of the more popular crypto.com, Robinhood, Coinbase, what's the other ones? Webull. It took a
Yep.
little bit of time. So in the back of my head, I'm thinking maybe we're kind of approaching that route of it getting that way. And one thing that I thought you would have mentioned earlier were whales, because they're typically the ones that have a big hand in pushing the how this thing fluctuates. You can have $1 billion right now. This thing hits main net, and then bow you in there with $2 million, and then drives the value all the way up, and then all of a sudden people are selling it. You're getting richer. But then
Yeah.
again, that's optimistic thinking, because well, if it never hits mainnet or we never get a value for it, and all this is just a waste of breath.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering what you think. Are we more on the side of, let's be give it a little bit of optimism, or you just saying burn your phone? This is a waste of time.
Well, no, don't burn your phone. I don't know if you can see behind me. I don't know if my
Yeah,
camera's
that was the
showing it.
first thing I noticed.
But I actually am mining on my not on my coins, on my phones back here. I have about, I would say, 11 phones back there. But they're actually mining. They're utilizing the CPU of the phones, and I can actually choose the thread count and stuff like that. Go really technical and like how much processing power I'm using on each one of those phones, but like I'm actually mining crypto on those phones. So I wouldn't say burn your phone. And then also, you know, if you're into Pi and you want to keep doing it, you could do what I'm doing and mine Varus coin using the CPUs on your phone, and then just go on your phone on the app and have like a Pi app on each of those phones, and I don't know, referral code each one into like a chain if you want to, and do both. Because I don't know
That
if
would be
Pi
smart.
actually uses the CPU. So I mean, you could like double up if you wanted to. Don't burn your phone. I'm not an advocate of destroying tech. I like to recycle tech. That's why I'm using old phones to mine crypto. So yeah.
Except, you have a LinkedIn account by chance?
I don't. But you can go to my website. It's techroosh.biz. Um,
Yeah, I
and
was
yeah,
yeah, I was
sorry.
just gonna say tell them where they can find you. I'll put it in the chat and
Yeah,
your YouTube page, right?
yeah. So, I'm not going to show any faces or anything. Currently, I just have it on the question screen in this recording as well. But this will likely be on YouTube as well. So, if there's any names that you guys say of yourselves, I will block it out. Not a problem. If you want me to change your voice, I can change your voice as well. But I do have a YouTube channel. It's called Financial Failure, funny enough, even though I would consider myself not a financial failure. But I created my YouTube essentially because I thought that a lot of these guys on YouTube and finance gurus bragged a little bit too much. And then I also thought that you don't really learn anything from somebody bragging, you learn from people's mistakes. And I've made so many mistakes. Like I brought up BitConnect because I was a part of that Ponzi. Now I got out of it early, but I did, you know, have friends of mine that lost money because of me through using BitConnect. So like, examples very similar to that is the reason why I created the channel and why I have the name Financial Failure. You can also find a Wall Street Journal document or article about me if you look up my name, Byron Hayes, and or financial failure with the Wall Street Journal. Um, so I'm there as well. If you want Quintina, you can give them my personal. It's fine, and then I can give you my business email, and we can stay in touch if you have questions after. I know we're kind of running up on time as well.
Oh, that's the plan. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
we're staying in touch for sure.
yeah. So feel free. Uh, I'm here to
Yeah,
help.
yeah, it's all about the connections and stuff. So yeah, I can even the people that weren't able to make it and some had to leave early, just send them your contact information. I won't give your personal number, but I'll give your YouTube, your email, your all the things that you just said, article. What was the website again? I think I didn't have that.
Techroosh.biz.
Okay. I think you sent that to me, right? I have that.
Yeah, yeah, and
Okay,
then and I can always send it later too. Not a problem.
this was really good. So I have very limited knowledge. I kind of just do what people say. Oh, you should buy some of this, and I'm like, okay, but I haven't really, yeah. So I'm going to have to keep learning about this.
And you know what? That's fine too. A lot of people who may not want to admit that that's how you got into it. That's how I got into it too. That's why I wanted to touch on that history a little bit at school, where I'm hearing people talk about buying Bitcoin and how they're buying it. That's that's how you get into it. And then if you make a mistake, so be it, right? It's
Hmm.
fine to make mistakes. It's better if you learn from those mistakes, right? So feel free to invest and make mistakes, and maybe something will hit for you.
Yeah, and I do want to mention we have to mention that Byron is one of the few African Americans in this business. Um, even if you look online and YouTube, you usually see other races, usually white or Asian, but you don't really see black people in this space. So that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and I'm going to Zhongguo. That's China for those who know Mandarin. I'll be going next month to the Consensus 2025. It's a big Web3 uh, basically event that happens all over the world, but they're having their event in Hong Kong. So I'm going there. I did spend some time teaching myself Mandarin, so that's why I was able to spit
Awesome.
that out. But yeah, I think I'll probably be like one of the only African Americans at that event. So yeah, wish me luck.
But well, yeah, I think it's going to be fun, and you have a following. People know you. You know,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
successful at it, so it's not like you're going to go in there and no one not recognize you. You know.
yeah. That's true. That's true.
Yep. So it's pretty cool. Um, is there anything else?
Please, questions if you have questions. And then
Any
if yeah, go ahead.
any from just your knowledge base, any coin do you think we could, jump on the wagon a little bit right now? I know
I
it's not
I
financial advice.
I knew this question would come. Um, to jump on the wagon. Oh boy. So we kind of touch on this. I have a live stream every Tuesday with a couple guys of mine. We go over the markets, and there are some coins that I'm interested in. When it, I again, not financial advice. I don't want to get caught up in any sort of legal troubles in the future with anybody on this call. But one coin that I'm heavily mining that I have high hopes for because of its utility. Going back to utility, it's fast. It has cheap transactions. It's Caspa, and it's on a layer one, so it's not a token, right? Um, Caspa's one that I have high hopes for. You can, and if you wanted to invest, you can get it on crypto.com. It's not on Coinbase yet, which is actually a positive because when it's not on these too many exchanges yet, then it kind of limits that value. Um, so it's not on the super major exchanges yet. I do mine it heavily. The only issue I have with it is price action hasn't moved much, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a good thing, meaning that you can jump into it. Another coin, I mentioned it on here, is called Virtuals. Virtuals is actually a token on the base network, so it's not really a coin, but it's the platform more or less that I'm investing in. Virtuals is a platform of AI agents. So it's not just AI XBT that you can get on Virtuals or was created by Virtuals, but there's a slew of other AI agents that are being built on this platform. I'm really big into investing into platforms, layer ones, things that truly have value, not like meme coins or anything like that. Um, so those would be like my two big ones that are like under the radar sort of things. And then obviously, I said I was a Bitcoin miner. I am a Bitcoin miner. Bitcoin as well, I think, is severely undervalued. Um, and I don't think it has reached its peak yet. I do think it will come down a little bit based off of other TA that I've watched. I'm not your technical analysis wizard that you may have seen on YouTube, but I do watch those guys, and it may have a retracement of 40 or 30%, bringing it down to probably around that $70,000 range or so, maybe a little lower. But then I do think that it will reach at least 150 to 200,000. Those are just my guesstimates for Bitcoin. So those are
which
my
is pretty,
examples.
which is pretty insane. Insane. I was one of those hard life lessons in 2011. A few friends of mine. we're all on the wagon. I'm just like, man, you guys, you just always jumping on the next thing. Yeah. Well, all two of them both live in San Francisco now, and it's almost like told you,
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
told you has been stuck in my head since then, and so I try not to miss any more of those shots, you know, that
yeah,
I didn't take. Or I didn't take that one, and it cost me big time.
exactly. And I
That's
would I would also say with that, experience that you had, it's not too late.
oh
Um,
yeah, at a
like,
100 grand per.
yeah, yeah, it's not too late at all with crypto, with AI as well. Um, one of my latest videos, hopefully I can have enough. This will be posted, but my latest video, I actually was interviewing younger people, younger than me actually, that were not invested in crypto at all. And I was just asking them, hey, if you invest in crypto, I will give you crypto. That was the video pretty much. And none of them had a wallet, none of them had an account. Some people kind of didn't even know what it was. So I still think we're in the early phases. And I say early phases for AI as well because I'm developing apps for those same clients that I told you about for a government client, for my law client, that are AI based applications, and they are eating it up. So um, if you feel like you're lagging behind in this technology race, trust me, you are not. Just joining this is huge in general because now you have more knowledge than a lot of the people walking down the street that you see. So yeah, don't ever feel like you lost out. We all have, right? We all said we coulda, shoulda, woulda, but it's still not over yet. There's still a chance with all of this stuff. So
So I know you mentioned Casper Coin is on what Coinbase,
crypto.com. Yeah.
Crypto.com. What about Virtual?
Virtuals is also on crypto.com. Yeah.
They're not doing anything super bullish yet, are they?
Um, Virtuals outside of people building on their platform, not really. But with all the talk about AI and virtuals being AI agent platform, it only makes sense to me that it will do well in the future. Um, I'm trying to remember if Caspa actually is on crypto.com. I think it is. And then if you have trouble getting Caspa, the other way to get it, and if I can get everybody, another thing I wanted to say before this meeting ends is I wanted to actually give everybody who joined, I don't think it's that many people, but it won't hurt me to do this as well. But I wanted to buy everyone a hardware wallet for you to store your crypto safely and securely. And the wallet that I want you to buy, you can get Caspa on it. You can just basically swap whatever coin you want and then using this hardware wallet, swap it into Caspa. It's called a Tangem wallet. So if you all don't have a Tangem wallet yet and you want to get one, I wanted to offer that to all the people who joined as almost like a token for listening to me, blabber about cryptocurrency, tech, and blockchain. And it's free, right? I'm not asking for anything. How how I got into crypto, one thing I didn't touch on was the community aspect. Literally, my first cryptocurrency was Dogecoin, and I got it through a faucet. And a faucet was just a random website where you put in your address, you click a button, and then they sent you coin, and it was free, right? So I because I would call myself an OG in the space, I still have that mentality of like giving to people without seeking anything in return, right? Because that's how you increase the use of the network. That's how they did it in the past, and I feel like that's a good way to do it currently as well. So if you are interested, right, you'll have my contact information from Quintina. You can just reach out and be like, hey, I'm interested in getting that Tangent wallet. Can you give me one? I do have some that aren't open um, at home right now, but I'll probably just have to order some more if it's like an influx of people that are interested in getting a hardware wallet. I even gave a hardware wallet to my neighbor. So it's not a big deal, trust me, if you're interested in
That
that
is
tangent
super
wallet.
gracious of you. It really is. And for the people that missed it, they snooze, they lose.
Yeah, it is what it is. So again, I don't know how
Yeah,
many people are on call, but
there
yeah.
were so yeah, there were about um I will say about 12 that registered, and I
Okay.
think we had a solid maybe 5 throughout the presentation.
Yeah. So
And yeah,
if I can get information on those five, then I can send all five of them if interested. Right? Not everybody would be interested. Tangent wallet. So
And would you able to put everything you own on that tangent wallet?
practically everything. There's some coins, right? Some altcoins that you can't put on there. Like currently, they don't have lithium. I mine a lithium. It's an altcoin. It's not doing well. That's why I didn't recommend it. But I can't put my lithium to coin on that Tangent wallet. But I can put my Bitcoin, my Litecoin, my Doge, my Caspa, right? I can swap into Caspa on the Tangent. They have a lot of Solana um, ecosystem coins or tokens on there. Um, it has a lot that you can do on the Tangent, and they're fairly secure. I'm not a fan of the RFD or radio frequency device where you have to like put it up to your phone. I'm not a fan of that, but they've gone through the appropriate security reviews and audits. So for now, they're good. I use it. I keep my because of its RFD technology. I don't take it anywhere. I just keep it in a safe at home. So as long as you're doing that, I think you're good. But if you're going to be carrying this card hardware wallet out, I would recommend putting it in one of those radio blocker wallets, so that nobody can like accidentally scan it and then possibly take your coin. But otherwise, it's a good wallet. That's why I'm recommending it.
that is
I
so
don't have an
cool.
issue. Yeah.
Wow. Well,
So
I think we heard some good information tonight. I'm
Definitely.
inspired. I don't know what next step I'm going to do. It's baby steps, but
yeah, baby steps are good. Baby steps are
yeah. But yeah, I thank you guys for um, hanging out this evening and learning more. Definitely got to